just do a little announce part, then I'll be able to kind of talk free flowing. Thank you everybody for coming. I wanted to make the public aware of some things that occurred last weekend. We sent some correspondence to the fire chief and the city manager about a crisis of morale within the San Antonio Fire Department. In the weeks following the termination of 6 fire cadets, the San Antonio Professional Firefighters Association, at a meeting, we were mandated by our members to form a committee because that seemed to be the straw that broke the camel's back when it comes to a lot of things that have been happening within our department to affect the morale. It's become apparent that that is a growing concern, that has ignited a growing concern regarding the direction and the leadership of this department. The most disappointing aspect is the egregious acts and lack of leadership from the chief's office is now having to be corrected by the battalion chiefs. And so there was a almost unanimous, about 80% of the battalion chiefs, they wrote a letter to me, and they're asking for the San Antonio Professional Firefighters Association to take a leadership role in trying to correct a lot of the morale issues that's going on within the San Antonio Fire Department. And so what we wanted to do was we wanted to be able to let the public know, because we're going to stay on the job and we're going to continue to respond to the emergencies and give them 100%. But it's no secret, it shouldn't be, when the police were going through their issues, crime was going up in this city. And there was a lot of problems on the police side. And so sometimes morale has that impact, but our guys are going to work hard to provide the greatest service to the citizens no matter what. But I sent a letter to the fire chief and the city manager that we will hope that they will work with us in trying to, correct those issues that are causing this crisis of morale within the San Antonio Fire Department. These battalion chiefs are the conduit. They're the ones that are between management and the front line guys that really put their lives on the line. These are the chiefs that are the guys that are supposed to be the ones that make sure that that service gets delivered. They're the ones that are out there in constant contact with our frontline troops. And so for them to reach out to me on this issue, we thought it was just something that was very important that we get out, and it's going to be an ongoing, continuous process to try to fix the issues within our fire department so that we can make sure to increase the morale of the firefighters. Is there any questions from anybody?
So what are some of the problems?
So some of the problems that we've talked about, I think we've talked about some things related to, we've had a cadet, 2 cadets hospitalized on some things that occurred at the training academy. We've had folks that have been disciplined for refusing to shake someone's hand. So you don't shake a chief's hand, it's automatic discipline. We've had guys disciplined for a lot of different reasons that is creating a hostile work environment for what these guys have to work under. So what we are doing now is we're going to kind of catalog a lot of those things. We're developing the factual issues that are behind it to come forward with some more, but we definitely want to make sure that the chief understands and that the citizens understand that this is something that's going on within the San Antonio Fire Department. And I think the most important piece is the fact that these chiefs signed this and sent this, to the union leadership. We would hope that the chief will take it serious and communicate with his battalion chiefs. Again, they're the most important conduit between what happens on the street and what happens at the chief's office. We would hope that he would try to figure out how to work with them and correct these issues.
What specifically did you send to the manager and the chief, and what are you asking them to do in order to address morale issues?
So you should get a copy of that specifically. It's this letter from the battalion chiefs, and then a cover letter with me asking for them to to meet and kind of take some other action. Basically, and I can just read some of the letter, and that might address your question. The recent firing of 6 cadets, as well as inconsistent and ever-changing reasons for their dismissal, have eroded trust and undermined integrity and credibility of the San Antonio Fire Department administration, and has led to the lack of confidence in the leadership of this department. We believe that this action was ill-advised, it was not investigated completely, and sheds a bad light upon the Fire Department administration and its handling of the topic. The result is a palpable negative impact on the morale of the members of the SAFD. We believe this action, which originated in the personnel division, is still reversible, but we also believe that this is a part of a larger trend that needs to be reversed within the SAFD. So like I said earlier, this is kind of just a straw that broke the camel's back. When taking into account heavy-handed and unfair disciplinary actions, there's harassment and intimidation of a lot of our members, the training emphasis and the episodes of injury and hospitalization of our cadets. These individuals who possess potential to be great firefighters is but the most egregious in a series of ill-handed events. The fire chief had met with the battalion chiefs and asked them to be kind of a conduit of information to and from the chief's office, and they felt compelled to fulfill that part of the job description. But their greatest concern is the ever-changing narrative coupled with an unstable demeanor from the chief's office that will be apparent when conveying those messages to the field. The respect of the men and women is paramount, and they kind of just didn't want any part in sending just the chief's message when there was a lot more to that. They did not want to compromise their integrity in an attempt to sell the members on the field on a perception of administration that wasn't true. Summing it up, the overwhelming feeling from the field is that there is still a chance to reinstate 6 cadets and salvage the respect of the men and women of the SAFD. They stand ready to support the chief in making needed changes to demonstrate that the administration is fair and is just to all. And they would like nothing more than to see the administration regain the trust and improve the morale of the field personnel. We are San Antonio, and this is not who we are as a city. It's not who we are as a culture, as a family, or as a department.
If you look at the instances that were brought up in this letter, as well as the previous history of some fighting over the pension funds, do you believe that the problems can be fixed, or is it going to take removing and replacing the chief?
We're always optimistic that we can work together to try to resolve the issues. And so that's what we're moving forward with as our goal, is to let's try to work together and let's solve these issues, because that's what's in the best interest of the citizens, and that's what's best for this city.
Chris, it seems like the cadets that got dismissed, that's a big issue for you guys. Is the union backing them up, or are you saying what the chief wrote is not true about these cadets, why they got let go or they got fired?
Yeah, definitely the characterization from the chief of why they were let go is not true. And I think that a lot of the battalion chiefs saw the differences over the course of 3 days and what his explanation was on them. Again, I just like to emphasize that it was the straw that kind of broke the camel's back, and that cadet issue is still an issue. But this is something that's different as far as we're moving forward in this crisis of morale within our department. We need to correct a lot of different things that are related to that, which a lot of it is also intimidation, heavy-handed type disciplinary tactics and things like that that have been ongoing for a while. And so the cadets, these are individuals that, you know, when you apply for the San Antonio Fire Department, if they turn you down, you can go appeal to the Civil Service Commission. Once they become members of the fire department, if they discipline you, you can go appeal. But in the 6-month time frame as a cadet, they have no appeals rights.
So the chief has already said that they can reapply and come back through the program.
So there's actually been 2 individuals disqualified that reapplied and came back. And so that's why we're saying that it's not true what he's saying, that they can reapply and come back in. Those cadets were told you will never work in the San Antonio Fire Department ever again. And the ones who chose not to resign, there was 4 that resigned, 2 that said, I'm not going to resign, I'm going to terminate. They told those 2 they were going to make sure that you will never work in another fire department job anywhere. And so those are some of the things that we know has been exhibited as what was termed in the letter about, you know, kind of the lack of integrity and credibility that's coming out of the chief's office. And so when we talk about, you know, what happened, these cadets are innocent men and women, are men, and they have no recourse. And it seemed to be just an egregious act. It was kind of tantamount to bullying, I guess you would say, where the chief felt, hey, I just fired these guys. There's nothing they can really do. And so there's nothing we can really do to get them back on except hope that the chief will understand the impact of his decisions in this case and others on what it's having to the 1,600 plus men and women that respond to fire and EMS calls for this city every day.
So just to be clear, telling them that they were never going to work for any fire department again, who was it that told these cadets that? Was it the chief that told them that?
That was chief from personnel that handled the termination. So Chief Hood was not in the room. But let me just be clear. Chief Hood is responsible. So it doesn't really matter who said it. Chief Hood is the guy that's supposed to be held accountable and make sure that things go according proper. But it was another chief that was in the room. I mean, those guys had finished their EMT classes. They were done. They were set to take the EMT exam. They canceled the whole class exams just so that those guys couldn't take their exam. So in characterization of what you're saying, where they make it appear like, man, these guys, they can reapply, everything is okay. They did everything they could to ruin these guys' lives. Firehouse Magazine, Chief Hood is on the editorial board. They run a story, didn't get another side to the story, didn't do anything. They just ran the story. And so now when we have a cadet that's applying in South Carolina, they read the story about it. They did everything they could to ruin those guys, even to put their name out. We have not once showed their face or put their name out. The chief did that. And so that's just an answer to Josh, what you're saying as far as, well, we're going to let them apply, and it seems like there is this fairness, and there is this, well, the chief is concerned about these guys. They're doing everything they can to ruin these guys' lives.
So is this going to continue to be an issue until the chief decides to reinstate the 6? Is that y'all's take on this? Are you going to continue to push this as a major issue for the union?
So there's a lot of other issues. I think I mentioned just a few, and we want to make sure that we've got all the facts. I do know there's been 2 cadets hospitalized based on the first week of the academy.
I mean, my guess is that training is a very physical thing, right? So was there some dereliction of duty by the people who are doing the training that caused these accidents, or is it just the nature of being in a very physical environment?
So we are looking into more of that. I can tell you that the condition that they had is caused by too much physical fitness. Understand that in our training academy, what we do in our training academy is we train guys to be firefighters. So I think the physical fitness piece is also a piece of that, but you spend a lot of money putting a guy in the training academy. You spend a ton of money to do that, and so to have a guy under this condition based on an overexertion of their physical fitness, you know, it's just something that we got to look into more. I didn't want to go into detail in that now because we're gathering all of that, and you'll hear more about it. And so, but that's not the only issue. Trust me, that is not the only issue. I didn't want to, you know, mention anything here about an active shooter type of thing, and I'm not going to go into that. But I mean, there's some other issues.
So Chris, I mean, you did bring up the cadets though, but is the union saying that these guys didn't do anything wrong, or that you just need to investigate?
So they didn't do a proper investigation, because if they did, they would have found that these guys did nothing wrong. If you ask the question, what would you tell me just from what you've heard, that you learned, what do you think that they've done wrong? The cadets, none of them were in uniform. None were off duty. I mean, they were all off duty. There was one guy who, he rode out on the ambulance, and then, you know, he went. Everybody was home before 7 p.m. They went to a recognized establishment, not a sexually oriented business. It's illegal to tell a guy you can't drink coffee. And it's illegal to tell a guy that you can't drink beer. That's why there's nothing in writing on it.
So you're saying with the letter that the chief sent out is not true?
Those guys never signed that letter. What the letter that the chief sent out is misdirection and propaganda from the chief. It's not in any of the policies. It's not in any of the rules. It really is a suggestion, but we have a culture where our guys go to Twin Peaks after softball tournaments. I mean, it's kind of, you'll see an ambulance or a fire truck by there every now and then. It's just what we do. It's not a bad place in our opinion. If the chief wants to rule that spot out, he can. But our guys did nothing wrong. Nobody's ever been able to point to it, and I think that's why the chief just basically says he's done with it and they made errors in judgment.
It seems to be contradictory to say that it's illegal to tell someone they can't drink beer or coffee, but it would be okay for the chief to say that you can't go to a restaurant. Those don't seem like they match up to me. So can you explain? Because I'm unclear on what you're saying there.
So that's a little bit distracting as far as, I didn't say that. I said if he wants to say that, put it in the rules. Put it in the rules and regs. But again, I would say all of those are illegal. Now, the city does characterize sexually oriented businesses. I think that he would be right in saying they can't go to a sexually oriented business, because there's already things in place saying those are characterized as different type of businesses. If you say don't go to Twin Peaks, that's just like saying don't go to Chili's, in our opinion, until you change the designation of them.
Has the union sat down with the chief or the chief's leadership team to try to work this out, as opposed to doing dueling press conferences?
So for us, you know, this letter was sent by the battalion chiefs to the association, and what I'm doing here today is because in order for that to occur, there's something seriously wrong for it to get to that point where the chiefs that are in the fire chief's chain of command is asking the union to kind of take on an issue to kind of correct a crisis of morale. And so this is just starting, and we did want to just let everybody know that this is starting, because there's going to be more to come with this. And so I hope that he will sit down with us. Our best solution, I think, is for him to come to a resolution with the chiefs in his chain of command and make them happy, because they're the ones that are running the day-to-day operation out there and taking care of things. Those guys wrote to me as the president of the Firefighters Association to try to help them get some things taken care of and get some resolutions. And so I think that's the part that we're talking about today. But I think that if the chief will handle his chain of command with respect, if he will allow those guys to do their job properly, we can put most of this behind us.
So with respect to the 6 cadets, I mean, I've talked to rank and file firefighters who say that the membership is very split on how union leadership ought to proceed with this issue. Some people don't want to touch it at all because they're not union members. Some people want to spend money on this and move forward to try to protect them, and others are okay with you talking about it, but not spending the union dues on defending these cadets. So if that's the case, it makes me, I have a hard time understanding how there's this kind of widespread morale issues across the entire fire department if the membership's so split on this particular issue. And you're saying that you don't have information yet on these other issues that are driving this, whether it's the accidents at the academy or some issues with punishment for firefighters. So can you give us anything else that's specific examples of what it is that's driving morale down the fire department besides the cadet issue?
So there's going to be more specific examples. So when the members come to us, when the cadets walked into this building, they said, we got terminated. Now, the chief didn't do any investigation as far as we know, but I do my investigation, so I don't have anything to give you today, Josh. I received this letter Thursday, maybe last week. I sent a cover letter to the chief the next day. We're going to do our due diligence before I go out there and I say all these other things. We're going to do our investigation. What I think is important of what you said is there's 24 guys, there's 8 districts in this city. 8 districts. They represent, these chiefs represent those guys. They see them every day. They talk to them. I don't know who's talking to you, Josh, if it's 5 people or if it's 4 people. These guys represent 1,200 plus people. They sign their name on here. And I know that some are going to try to characterize it as this is a union issue. They sign their name on here. And I can tell you there's probably 1 or 2 on here that's not even a union member. They sign their name, Josh. So do you have 24 people telling you that if the cadets and the other people are not wanting the union to do things or all that? We've got 24 people. You can read what they said. You'll have a packet.
So does this letter say specifically that morale is down?
Specifically. Chief had 3 meetings. After he came out in the press conference, he had over 3 different days meetings with the battalion chiefs. At 3 meetings, the battalion chiefs told him the morale is the worst it's ever been. He says, I don't believe you. So first, that's not how a chief should respond. But second, when you talk about battalion chiefs, these are where the rubber hits the road in our culture. These are the guys that, you know, they interact with the frontline troops. They make the fires. They're the commander there. These are the guys that do that. If those guys speak, the fire chief should listen. That's all we want. If they speak, he should listen to what they're saying.
How do we fix the problem?
We're going to develop some solutions. What we would hope is that we could sit down at the table as a group. I would hope that the chief would bring these guys in and sit down and say, I want to fix the problem. He doesn't have to have me there. He can bring these guys in and say, there's a problem out here and I want to sit down with you folks and let's fix the issue.